Pet owners of Reddit, what was the most intelligent thing your pet has done? When I was a kid, we had 2 dogs, a Pyrenean Shepherd and a Labrador Retriever. The Retriever was a goofy idiot, but the Shepherd was smart. One day, the Retriever gets loose. We had to tie him up in the yard because he kept chasing things and running away, and the Shepherd runs after him. We never even realized what had happened until we saw the Shepherd coming back with the Retriever, holding the would-be runaway's leash in his mouth, and leading him back to the house. Must have been a weird sight for the neighbors. When your dog is smart enough to take your other dog for a walk. I used to have a border collie German Shepherd mix named Ash. We had a 6-foot chain link fence with about an acre-sized backyard for him to roam freely. One day, we couldn't find him and an hour later he was back in the yard. As his escapes happened more often, I decided to watch him from the window. He would stick his front paws in the fence, pull himself up so his lower legs went in the fence, then put his front paws on top of the fence and climb over it like a goddamn human. He could do it from the other side as well and never hurt himself doing it. I was so impressed I wasn't even mad at him when he continued doing it for the remainder of his life. He was the smartest animal I ever had. I had a genius ferret. All of my ferrets were smarter than you might expect, but Mia was ridiculous. I have tons of stories, but here's my favorite. My roommates and I used to hang out in a TV room that had doorway with no door, entranceway. Since I wanted the ferret to be able to run around while we were there, I put a baby gate across the exit. It took her 10 seconds to climb it, of course. I then wrapped the gate in carpet runner, so she couldn't scale it. She tried for a long time, but could find anything to get a grip on. 3 of us are all kind of marveling at her commitment. She stops trying to climb, and just freezes for a minute, her eyes panning around the room like she's concocting a scheme. And then she starts eyeballing a shoebox on the other side of the room. Eyes up on the gate. Back to the box. Back to the gate. My buddy says no freaking way. You think she's figured it out? She walks over to the box and starts sliding it across the floor, stopping every foot or so and checking her progress. Finally gets to the gate, hops on the box and jumps up and grabs the top of the gate. Whoop, she's up and over and dancing down the hallway. I have one ferret whose intelligence honestly scares me, and one ferret who pretty much only has elevator music running through his head at all times. Such strange, wonderful creatures. We used to have this dog when I was younger. She learned how to open our fridge and she would eat almost everything in it. It got so bad that my mom had to buy a child-proof lock for our fridge. She ran a daycare, so it was always funny when parents asked about it and she had to explain it was for our dog and not the daycare kids. We just had to do this because of our Great Dane. The first time he did it he managed to eat an entire turkey leg and 16 hot dogs. That was a fun vet visit. A couple years ago, my grandmother, who doesn't walk very well anymore, fell while walking in the living room. They have a plot of land so it's pretty big and a couple of my family members live there, but at that time nobody was home. When our dog found out my grandmother fell, he ran all around to look for another person. When he didn't find anyone, he lay down and sat with her until she found the strength to stand up again. She told the whole family and I think we were all a little more thankful he was there for her that day. Cat would not let me go to sleep and insisted I follow her to the kitchen. We had just gotten a new stove with a glass cooktop and didn't realize one of the burners was still on very low. Thanks, kitty. My cat is a freaking sadist. She has learned my work school schedule and if I'm not getting up in the morning, she will step on the button of my CPAP machine, causing me to choke and wake up. If I have a panic attack, she meows until I pick her up and pet her, until I calm down. Quite the alarm clock hug. I have a German Shepherd that will let me know he's about to vomit and needs to be let out by nudging my legs, licking his lips, and then running to the back door. I'm so thankful he's learned to try to hold in his vomit so he won't do it in the house. My cat uses her claw to make her water bowl ring like a bell. I'm apparently the servant being called to refresh the water. My cat gets really ashamed when he hacks up a hairball. He will sit there looking very sad until it's cleaned up. Well, one day I was at work when he threw one up, and since there was nobody in the house to clean it up for him, he tried to cover it up on his own. He found one of my dirty socks I kicked off the day before, unrolled it, and then neatly placed it over the hairball. I still ended up stepping in it though. My cat just pukes hers into my shoes. I don't know about intelligent, but it was rude. I was sitting at the kitchen table using my laptop and singing. My cat came from across the house, hopped up on the table, and slapped me across the face. I once had a dog that would look both ways before crossing the street. She was legitimately looking for oncoming traffic. One time she started to cross, but then saw a car coming. She backed off and only crossed after the car passed. On the other hand, I once had a dog who would sunbath in the middle of the street, literally in the middle, as to block traffic in both directions. Was in the middle of packing to move and one of us forgot to close the hamster cage. Hammy gets out and is running around. Cat notices Hammy and makes this loud strange meow that wakes us up and alerts us to the loose hamster. Pretty decent of that cat to not eat the hamster. My chocolate lab woke me up one night barking in my face. I was really mad because he does that. When I got up to see what was up, I soon realized I was having a massive heart attack. He saved my life. Thanks, Luke. One time my dog had a minor blockage and we took him to the emergency vet to see what we could do. The vet decided to give him some fluids to try to flush it out. Later that night he woke me up by punching me in the face and looked deeply into my eyes as if to say, this is going to be a photo finish. Let him outside and he let out the biggest poop I had ever witnessed him take. Thanks for not doing that in the house, buddy. On a similar note, my pup woke up the next day after surgery and really wanted to go into our bathroom. We assumed it so she could lay on the cold tiles. Nope. She hobbled into the shower and peed. Our apartment is at the top of stairs and I think she figured this was the easiest option. My cat hid under a comforter when my house caught on fire when I wasn't home. It saved his life because the layers of the comforter acted as an air filter and saved him from dying of smoke inhalation. I know of someone's dog who herded the cats into the basement when the house caught fire. According to the fireman, pets often die in house fires because they go hide in the upstairs bedroom, which they think of as being safe but is actually more likely to get smoky. The dog saved the cats' lives. I'm pretty bad at keeping track of my 3DS game cartridges. Lucky for me, my cat isn't. I once lost my copy of Pokemon X, nearly destroyed my room trying to find it. A week later, I'm outside exercising and my cat walks up to me, drops the missing game cartridge at my feet and then just walks off like it's no big deal. Your cat took it. He's done with it now. I was trying to teach my husky paw and he wasn't getting it. After about 5 minutes of watching, my lab mix comes over and puts his paw in my hand to show his brother how it's done. This happened with my family when we were teaching our lab pup how to shake. Same as paw. We'd have him sit and ask him to shake and our older lab would walk over, sit, and keep putting his paw up in the air as if to say, look, I know how to do it. I should get a treat. It was the cutest thing. Our family's border collie would ring the doorbell when he wanted to come in. He was never trained to do it. My dad figures he had learned it from my childhood friends coming over to invite me out to play. My dog got out of yard one time when we weren't home. He went to my parents' house that's about a half a mile away and started scratching on the door for my dad. Mine went on his walk route. I'm running barefoot shaking a bag of treats like a madwoman while he's going around acting like everything's fine and dandy. My male Quaker parrot managed to get out of his cage one day and had free roam over the entire house. He stole every pen, pencil, and hair tie he could find and built a nest in the corner of his cage. When we tried to take it down, he guarded it with his life and screeched at us. We got him a few boxes of pencils the next day and let him remodel as much as he wanted. Honestly, he loved building it and fixing it up. It kept him busy and happy. Our cat, a big Maine Coon, delivers the incoming mail from the letter slot in his teeth, or bats the larger pieces, to where I'm sitting. If a piece is too heavy, he looks at me and growls until I go to the letter slot to finish the delivery job he started. My cat has this thing about drinking water from a bowl. She would always tip it over, lick it off the floor. We got tired of stepping on a wet floor in socks on the daily, so we wedged the water bowl between two heavier objects so that she couldn't tip it over. She realized she could get a running start to jump onto a rolling office chair to create enough force to move the bowl enough to spill it onto the floor. I feel like she has a pretty good grasp on simple physics and using tools to get her way. One of my pet rats was kinda smart. When they would walk around on my bed, They were able to step onto the windowsill. I used to have blinds in front of my window, and the little cord hung over it down to the ground. At the end of the cord there was this little weight. So my pet rat tried to lift the cord upward, but when of course it kept falling back down because of the little weight. He thought for a minute, and then lifted the cord again, put his front paw on the cord, gripped another part of the cord with his teeth, lifted it upward a little further, put his paw on top of it, etc. He managed to get the rest of the cord and little weight on the windowsill. He did that every day after that. I thought that was pretty smart. Also, I used to have 2 rats that could spin around their axis on command. They knew they would get a snack if they did that. So whenever I opened a bag of potato chips for myself, they started spinning around like 10 times hoping they would get some. I never give my rats chips, for the record. My cat knows that old grocery bags are what I scoop his crap into, so when I slip up and forget to clean his litter box he drags one in there to let me know. My corgi helps hold open inside doors for my 3-legged dog, named Wobbles. We adopted when he realized Wobbles couldn't follow him due to the doors shutting behind him. The smartest thing I've seen my cat do is referee when my girlfriend's kitten was trying to fight her older cat. We were initially terrified because my cat was found as a stray and you can tell that he's had his butt kicked in a few fights back in the day. When we adopted him, when he'd hear the other cats start play fighting, he'd rush out to be there too. He weighed about twice as much as the next biggest cat, and we knew almost nothing about his personality at the time, so of course this filled us with terror. Well, we followed him out into the next room, and he had just managed to perch himself on the coffee table, above the action, and was just watching, when the older cat switched from playing to getting genuinely exasperated with the kitten. He tagged in so the other cat could get away. For months he would do this, so we figured he may have helped raise kittens when he was stray. I have a blood parrot, smartest fish I've ever had. His tank contains half sand and half white pebbles. However, he's very particular with where and how the floor of his environment looks like. For example, he'll move plants towards certain places if he doesn't like how the ground looks beneath them. He'll place pebbles on the sand part and make a sand pile in the pebbles area. But it isn't random. If you remove a pebble from a little pile, he'll notice it and place another one. If you distort a little sand pile, he'll build more on top of the remains. He'll spend about 3 days carving out a small hole just to see his reflection at the bottom of the tank. If you lightly dusty the empty space with sand, he'll come swimming out of his house, collect the misplaced sand in his mouth and literally throw it at you against the aquarium glass. He's a very grumpy fish, but his personality is amazing. My blood parrot would greet everyone who walked in the front door. It wasn't a feed me thing, because he didn't do it when you walked past randomly, it was just when you were coming home. Super smart little dude, and a dedicated decorator. Also the fake plants all had certain spots and if you moved them an inch he would notice immediately and drag them with his mouth back to their special spots. I've got an African grey parrot. I also have a large mirror that leans against a wall. He once walked up to it, studied the other bird intently after fluffing up and acting like a badass. Then he decided to look behind the mirror for the other bird, except you could see the confusion when he popped his head behind there only to see nothing. He then looked at me as if I caused this black magic. Then he proceeded to walk behind the mirror and poke his head around so he could look into the mirror while standing behind it. He then looked at me quizzically, studied the mirror, popped his head behind it, popped it back out to confirm, then just walked away. Now, he seems to check himself out in the mirror every time he waddles past it. I swear he knows it's him in the mirror and not just that particular one. If he's in the bathroom with me, he acts the same and appears to be studying himself whenever he gets the chance. Knowing that the reflection in a mirror is you is one of the rare abilities in the animal kingdom and one which few animals possess the required intelligence to understand. Dolphins, pigs, some of the higher level primates. That's about it. Most other animals can't put the connection together. He also used to taunt the cat and get him to jump on top of the bird's cage. Then he'd yell for us so we'd grab the cat and scold him. Then the bird would laugh. Happened until the cat learned not to jump on top of the cage. Now, he's scared of the bird and will turn around if he sees the bird walking towards him. Haha, my parents have an African grey that would taunt my brother's dog. African greys are really good at mimicking voices, so, using my brother's voice, he'd call the dog, Sable, Sable, come here. And once the dog showed up, get the frick out, then he'd laugh his butt off. When my son was a baby, he was teething really bad, constantly running a fever and cranky. We gave him lots of the Tylenol suspension drops. One morning I had the baby wedged in the recliner while I was looking for something. Of course he was crying. Our dog looked at the baby, ran upstairs, came back down a few seconds later with the Tylenol, dropped it in the recliner where it rolled to the baby. Then the dog turned to me and barked until I picked it up. I brought the quiet juice human. Use it already. My roommate's dog. We were taking care of another dog for a few days and he was staying at our house. They got along well enough, but visitor dog kept trying to play and resident dog never wanted to. One evening, resident dog walks into the living room to find visitor dog is in her favorite spot on the couch. She immediately barks, drops into a play bow, and starts jumping around to play with him. Visitor dog gets super excited that she finally wants to play and abandons the couch. Resident dog drops the play acting and reclaims her rightful throne. If all of the spots on the couch were taken, my dog would scratch the door to go out, and when someone gets up he would take their spot. My golden retriever leaves a shoe on the bed, without fail, for my wife or I to find if we are both gone at the same time. My theory is that she did it once, and we came home, so now she does it every time we leave to ensure that we come back, like a doggy superstition. After doing this for years, my wife had to leave the state for a week. My first day back from work, there was a shoe on the bed. Normal. After my second day back, wife is still gone. There were 3 shoes on the bed. After my third day returning from work alone, every shoe and boot in the house was laid out on the bed and couches, and all of my wife's dirty socks were in a bowl. It may not be the smartest thing she's ever done, but it really made me think about how she thinks. You've been visited by the good sleep oinker. You will be blessed with cozy, restful sleeps, but only if you comment sleep type porker. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.